Hello, and thank you for watching this Corn Belt Regional Forecast. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrient Ag Solutions. As we take a look at the jet stream early on this Tuesday morning, this is the pattern we've got, and it's essentially this pattern that's going to take us through the next 7 to 10 days. And this pattern delivers a lot of cold air, a lot of cold, dry air to a big chunk of the Corn Belt. Go ahead and kind of roughly draw the outline of the United States here on this map. And you can see the jet stream flow screaming out of the Canadian prairie, and that again displaces a lot of cold air south into the Corn Belt, meanwhile displacing a lot of warm air northward under this ridge across the Gulf of Alaska. So the cold air's got to go somewhere, and right now it's being driven into the Midwest of the United States. So here is our temperature outlook for the next 10 days, and it's a lot of the blue, purple, and in this case, white colors where we're breaking the colored bar at averaging 20 degrees cooler than average in that November 11th through 15th time frame. So we've got cool air in place right now across the Corn Belt. It's going to get a bit colder as we head into the next week. As we look at the precipitation forecast, though, for the next 10 days, it's a dry next 10 days. Even though it's bitterly cold, that doesn't necessarily equate to a whole lot of snow either. This cold air mass doesn't hold a lot of moisture. So the more significant precipitation can be held off just to the south, maybe across parts of the mid-south, Kentucky and Tennessee, far southern Illinois, southern Minnesota, or southern Missouri. I apologize, they're picking up on some precipitation. But as we look at parts of the northern plains into the upper Midwest here, just watching for clipper-like systems here to come diving out of the Canadian prairie here, bringing quick doses in the form of just some light rain or some light snow here across the northern plains. But by and large, not looking at any significant precipitation events across the Corn Belt over the next 7 to 10 days. The last 3 days really reflect this as we look at the last 72 hours of precipitation. Again, just watching systems kind of sneak through from the prairie across the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes and then on into the Northeast region. And again, with the Gulf moisture being kind of held at bay down here across the southern U.S., not tapping into that across this corridor. So we'll take a look at an animation here. We do bring some moisture in from the Pacific here, and we're not completely cut off from the Gulf of Mexico, but again, just not seeing the alignment here to bring in these more significant precipitation events, which is good news at this point as we try and wrap up harvest in a lot of areas. Taking a look at the snow depth across the country, again, this is the corridor we'll be watching. Maybe draw it in blue here, but kind of watching along and north through this corridor for these light snow events, perhaps stacking up a couple to 3, 4, 5 inches at a time, just sneaking through the northern plains into the upper Midwest. Looking at the satellite picture, then we do have a front making its way through parts of the eastern Corn Belt right now, some light rain occurring underneath some of those clouds here as we look at the radar picture from parts of eastern Missouri through southern Illinois along the Ohio River there through parts of the eastern Corn Belt, seeing some of these very light showers, some very light snow flurries falling across parts of the northern plains with our next little wave that's going to be moving through here, delivering some accumulating snow as it moves through parts of the upper Midwest. Looking at the temperatures then, again, seeing that dividing line where temperatures are very cold this morning in the single digits to the teens across the northern plains and the upper Midwest, all the way to the 40s and 50s across the eastern Corn Belt and the Mid-South, and then eventually you hit the 60s and 70s as you head down toward the Gulf Coast. Now let's go ahead and let's just look at the next couple of days here, again diagnosing a couple of things, the first being the rain that's moving across parts of the Ohio River Valley, and then next talking about the accumulating snow through this corridor here. So taking it through the day today, let's go ahead, we'll get it back to Tuesday morning here, watching this rain move through and out of the Ohio River here by the time we get to midday. So seeing skies clear, seeing precipitation come to an end across the eastern Corn Belt as we head through the day today. Across the northern plains into the upper Midwest, starting to see this next wave now moving into the region as we hit Tuesday night. So accumulating snow beginning now across parts of southern Minnesota into parts of Wisconsin, potentially some snow flurries or some snowflakes flying in parts of Iowa and northern Illinois tonight as well, extending back into the Dakotas. At this point, we're now into Wednesday morning, so the sun comes up on Wednesday morning, seeing a steady snow falling across parts of Wisconsin with flurries possible all the way back into the Dakotas as this wave sneaks through, and then heading into Wednesday afternoon, watching snow come to an end then across Wisconsin and northern Illinois, with maybe some light rain showers beginning to develop across this corridor here as our next little wave moves through. Again, just only tapping into that deeper Gulf moisture here across parts of the far south. So really the more significant precipitation being held south of the Corn Belt as this next system moves in, again, just because it's not able to tap into that Gulf moisture. So just bringing it back here to Wednesday night, snow coming to an end across the Great Lakes here And then just seeing some very light precipitation developing in a corridor here through parts of Kansas, Missouri, into southern Illinois and southern Indiana as we get into Wednesday night. And then eventually Thursday, seeing a wider area of some light rain showers moving through from parts of the southern U.S. into the Ozarks and then eventually into parts of the Mid-South, but really missing the majority of the Corn Belt here as this thing sneaks off to the south. We can see that then when we just look at the total accumulated precipitation from this heading through the next couple of days. So taking it through noon on Thursday, Gulf moisture really going to be cut off as it tries to make its way northward, seeing the heaviest precipitation stack up here through parts of Texas, Oklahoma, into Arkansas, far southern Missouri, southern Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee, with light snow falling across this corridor here. We can see the snow accumulation forecast then with this first system as it sneaks through, again dropping a swath of some snow here on the order of maybe 3 to 5 inches in the heavier spots here across the Minnesota and Iowa border into parts of central and southern Wisconsin. That's where the snow should be the heaviest, extending back into the Dakotas. Certainly possible that we could see maybe a trace to maybe an inch in some of the heavier spots here, just enough to recoat the ground in a lot of these areas. Now, as we take a look at the upper level pattern here, we're looking at 500 millibar vorticity. I'm just going to point out that the pattern kind of sticks around here with this ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, diving into this trough across parts of the Great Lakes across the central U.S., just watching for little systems to sneak through the flow here, delivering light precipitation across this corridor, delivering some cold air to that corridor. So just kind of playing this out through the next week. But go ahead and we'll bring it back to Tuesday. Just watching the same pattern here, these little subtle disturbances within the flow coming from northwest to the southeast, from the prairie through the northern plains into the Midwest. Again, just delivering these light opportunities for precipitation across the northern plains into the upper Midwest, and delivering reinforcing shots of colder air across the Corn Belt as well. This will illustrate the pattern as well as we look at the precipitable water content within the atmosphere. So looking at the moisture available in the atmosphere helps us really diagnose the air mass across the region. And what you're going to see here is Gulf of Mexico moisture trying to come north, but instead of doing what we've seen over the last several weeks, really surging into the midsection of the country, delivering a lot of rich moisture to the midsection of the country and really fueling those heavy rain events. Instead, the flow coming out of Canada, this strong northwest flow coming out of Canada, that continues to bring reinforcing shots of dry air, which kind of head off that moisture again and kind of curve it off to the east. And that's what keeps the deeper moisture locked in here across the southern U.S. So let's take the drawings off, or maybe even leave them on here, because this will help illustrate the pattern. You're seeing this. There's a punch of dry air right there. We are bringing some moisture up over the top of the Rockies here from the Pacific, but that's it. That's what we bring with us into the northern plains here. It's not the deep Gulf moisture down here. No, we're talking about just kind of bringing some Pacific moisture up and over the top of the Rockies, wringing a lot of that out here across parts of Alberta, across parts of the western Canadian prairie, but then sweeping down here into the northern plains, just delivering some very light snow, some very light precipitation to this area. So that is the pattern. You can watch it one more time. Again, just watching some moisture come up over the top in this area, but cutting things off across the Gulf of Mexico. There's a punch of dry air right there. Here comes another one right here. Just reinforcing shots of this very cold, dry air mass that's not going to support the significant precipitation. So what does the precipitation forecast look like then from the GFS model? Well, we'll watch this first system sneak through. Here's the one that produces the swath of several inches here across Minnesota, Iowa, into Wisconsin here Tuesday night into Wednesday. Then watching the rain here kind of sneak off to the south of the Corn Belt through parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, picking up on some of that precipitation. High pressure comes in on the backside, quiets it down for a couple of days, and then over the weekend we watch the same thing. Another system kind of sneaking through for the prairie, bringing some light accumulating snow to parts of the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes here as we head through the weekend, and then potentially another one on the heels there as we head into next week. That would be midweek. So there's the pattern. Again, it's not one that supports a lot of significant precipitation. It is one, however, that supports a lot of cold air coming into this region, and then opportunities for some very light snow. So as we just take a look at the accumulated snow forecast here, taking this through the next week or so, again, just focusing on that corridor from the northern plains into parts of the Great Lakes for our opportunities for light accumulating snow, several inches at a time here every 3 to 4 days. Looking at the probability then of 3 inches or more of snow accumulating as we head through the middle part of next week, so taking it out the next 7 days. And there, once again, is our corridor. As we talk about parts of the eastern Corn Belt here, southern, central Iowa, parts of Missouri, getting into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Lower probabilities here, but not going to be immune to seeing some of the snow come in on some of the backs or on the back side of one or more of these storm systems. So certainly the more likely corridor going to be a bit further north. But as we talk about parts of the eastern Corn Belt here, getting as far south as parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, we will have to be on the watch out for some light snow. Let's go ahead and finish then taking a look at high temperatures for the next few days. Our high temperatures for the day on Tuesday, cold off to the north where we're only in the teens right now, warming into the mid-20s, all the way to the upper 50s to near 60 across the mid-south. Colder air starts to come a little bit further south as we head into the middle part of the week. Freezing temperatures for your highs across the northern plains into the upper Midwest as we get into the day on Thursday. Looking at highs below freezing across a bigger chunk of the upper Midwest here. Getting into Friday, Saturday, watching a small warm-up, a subtle warm-up come into parts of the Corn Belt before we've already got our next wave of cold air locked and loaded, ready to sink into the Corn Belt as we head into the weekend. So your low temperatures then for the next several days are overnight lows as we wake up tomorrow morning below freezing along the north of that line here, with above freezing temperatures only really in Kansas, Missouri, and then parts of the mid-south. Waking up on Thursday morning with temperatures, look at that, single digits now across the northern plains. Teens as you head into Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin. That freezing line stretches from Oklahoma into the eastern Corn Belt. And then waking up on Friday morning with sub-freezing temperatures for the entire Corn Belt. As always, on Wednesday morning, tomorrow, Eric Snodgrass will have our long-range U.S.-focused weather analysis. I'll be back to talk about the Corn Belt region once again on Friday morning. Have a great day.